My family moved there. We were the first Ghanaian family in Colorado Springs. Being 12, you really don't want to be that different from anybody else. My mother, in her power, she didn't dim our culture. They wanted me to understand that the differences that I have are worthy. What a long way the name Bozoma has come.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome to the stage the incredible Bozoma Saint John.
Bozoma Saint John, one of the most successful. Bozoma Saint John, remember that name?
Sister's a go-getter, and one day I'll probably end up working for her.
Early on in my career, I looked around. I was an assistant account executive at advertising agencies. I was, assistant brand manager at brand companies, and I would look around and realize that the folks at the top look nothing like me. I come from a long line of people who have broken stereotypes and who have achieved.
When we talk about somebody that represents Ghana, when we talk about somebody that represents Nana Yaa Asantewaa, she's actually a Guba Award winner, Nana Yaa Asantewaa Award winner. And for me, she's somebody that's in the diaspora, pushing for everybody else, every other young black woman, African woman. She has a hall of fame when it comes to marketing. She's somebody that inspires me, and not a lot of people know about her journey, where she started, where she was born. Was she born in Ghana? She actually wasn't born in Ghana, but she came here when she was 6 months old. Where is she from in Ghana? And is her name Bozoma or Bozoma? Which one is it, Boz?
That's hysterical. That might be the first time I've been introed like that, and I love it. Yes, the proper pronunciation of the Nzima people in the Western region is Bozoma.
Bozoma, yeah.
But the anglicized version, because I don't want people to mess it up, is just Bozoma.
Bozoma.
The long O, 2 syllables.
Right.
Don't mess it up.
Okay. But I would call you Bozoma.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
That's the actual African way to actually say it.
That's right.
So Boz, you're born to Dr. Reverend Arthur.
Yes.
Wow, your dad was a reverend.
Very much so.
So you were born in the US.
Yep.
And you were here as a small, tiny baby.
Yes.
Tell us about the journey in Ghana, or what you remember.
Right. Well, I've had so many different journeys.
Kenya.
Oh, everywhere. Yeah. I mean, by the time I was 12, I'd lived in like 5 countries already.
Wow.
But my dad, was one of those in that generation who was able to get a scholarship, Fulbright scholarship to the U.S. to study. Right. He ended up getting 2 PhDs, one in ethnomusicology and the other in anthropology. Wow. In fact, his PhD in ethnomusicology is about Kundum Festival in Nzima. And his thesis, still in the stacks of Wesleyan University in Middletown, Connecticut, is dedicated to me. And the dedication says to my daughter Bozoma, so that she may learn to love and appreciate the Nzima people. So I come from a person who, even though was afforded this incredible opportunity to go and study outside of his very limited opportunity. I mean, from Benin, small, tiny village, like to be able to eventually work his way to the US, he was dedicated to not just using that opportunity to forget his Africanness or his Ghanaianness or his Nzima-ness, but that he wanted to use it back here in Ghana. And so when I was 6 months old, he and my mom, who is from Sekondi Takoradi area, a nice fancy woman, a Hanta to be specific.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, they moved back to Ghana right after he graduated. Like literally he graduated in May and they were back here in June.
Oh, wow.
And I think that was unusual at the time,
because usually people will stay.
Yes.
They won't think about coming back.
They get out and then they get their education and they build their lives in somewhere else.
Yeah.
America,
Yeah.
Europe, wherever, you know? But my parents were dedicated to coming back and working here because they understood the value of the brain power, you know, that was being drained from the continent and that they wanted to contribute. So very long story short, my dad got into politics after teaching at the University of Ghana at Legon. And he was an MP in Hilary Liman's government. But we all know that that government was overthrown in a coup d'etat, and that's what forced us out. And so it was unfortunate at the time because I think that, you know, the impact I've been able to have as a diasporan now is complicated. You know, I have complicated feelings about it because on one hand, I'm like, if not for the coup, if not for having been driven out of Ghana, what could I have done here? But at the same time, I've had such incredible opportunities growing up in the U.S., making a career in the U.S., and then in my more mature years, being able to come back and contribute that learning. I find that I'm following in my father's footsteps, but just in a different way. And I hope that I'm able to continue doing it.
No, I think you are. And when I was reading more about you online, you said that your dad is your biggest inspiration. Why is that? Because I know you're so close to your mom. The reason why I say that is because you and your mom are like
me and
sisters.
my mom. Look, me and my mom. She knows she's my roll dog. That's my heart.
Right.
You know, and both of them have had improbable chances at life. You know, just like the math doesn't make sense for either of them to exist in the way that they do. But I do look at my dad as a terrific inspiration because, you know, he was orphaned by the time he was 14.
Wow.
He didn't go to secondary school. Not many people know that, you know, because he had to support himself and he was in the village, you know? And so to have had that experience where it's like nobody makes it out, literally no one makes it out. And to then not only join the Ghana Navy, win a Fulbright scholarship, which is an impossible act to begin with, you know, based off of his smarts and just natural ability, natural gifts, and then turn that into a life that could support a wife, 4 daughters, make sure they all got through university. You know, one sister is a lawyer, I have another sister who has a PhD in education, I have a sister who's an actress. I mean, and then there's me, little old me, who did a few things.
A few things? Wow, okay.
You know, I just find it inspiring. So every time that I walk into a boardroom where I'm one of few or the only one, or I face a situation where it feels like, but nobody else has done this before. I'm like, hey, if he,
at that time,
an orphaned young man, can come from Beijing all the way to the U.S., create a life that was successful, and then still contribute here. Who am I? I should be able to do more. So it's a big driver for me to exceed what he has done. It's not even just to match it. I need to exceed it in order to really show my full gratitude for what he and my mom were able to do.
Wow, that's amazing. So when you got to the US, how was the transition for you? As you know, as a dark-skinned woman, you know, all your sisters' beautiful skin. But, you know, in the US, did that affect you in any way?
Oh, yes, in so many ways. I mean, look, I had a couple of transitions to US, right? One when I was 5, coming from the coup. And then another when I was 12, when we went to settle for real. You know, and that was in Colorado Springs, Colorado, which, you know, that corner of the world is very homogeneous. Most people who live there, even though there are military bases in Colorado Springs, most people, you know, have just a certain type of life. They have not necessarily traveled outside of the US, let alone to come to Africa or Ghana. And so there were numerous barriers. You know, it was my blackness for sure was a first standout. But then it's like when I got there, look, my accent was a barrier. You know, my mother refused to assimilate. And so it's like the food we ate at home was not pepperoni pizza. She was not making you burgers. We weren't going to McDonald's. We eat fufu and light soup. And when my friends came over, that's what she would serve them. Or she'd be like, here's some kontomire. You know, or red. Or gari, fedi chiton. You know what I mean? And she would speak to them in fancy. You know what I mean? So there were so many ways that I had to both appreciate my identity,
Right.
because my parents refused
Right.
to let me feel anything other than pride. But there's also the realities of being a young woman and trying to find your own identity, right?
Yeah.
Feeling beautiful, feeling appreciated,
Yeah.
when none of that was marketed towards me. And therefore, it's like, look, there were the times in high school, you know, where it's like, why is nobody looking at me? Like, I'm so
Yeah.
cute. I don't understand why, like, I can't, why am I not being chased by all these people?
Right.
Like, what's going on?
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
But that has also fortified me, because I quickly realized that beauty doesn't mean anything.
Right.
You know, it's like, yes, of course we all want to be beautiful. You want to be appreciated. You want to walk into a room and people are like, oh, look at her, you know? But that is not it. That's not the only thing. So I find it interesting now, you know, when people compliment me, like my height or my
Yeah.
presence or, oh, your hair or your skin.
Right.
And I'm like, do you know what it took for me to appreciate that about myself first? I'm not looking for outside validation.
Wow.
So that's never been a thing, because I didn't get it anyway.
Yeah.
And so now it feels almost useless.
And I guess from you saying that is how your parents raised you at home.
Yeah.
To make you feel proud.
Yeah.
Right? And to let you know that you are beautiful.
Yes.
Right? At home. So then
Yes.
if you're going outside of the home, you know that you are still
Yeah,
beautiful.
yeah, regardless of what people
Yeah.
say. So look, I mean, like most of us, I was called names, you know, made to feel small. They would make fun of the food I ate, you know, so all of the things that we get as children, you know, bullied terribly. Hell, even my name, right? Because it wasn't
Yeah.
Samantha, it wasn't Priscilla.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Bozoma
Yeah.
is a heavy
name. Yeah.
And even Ghanaians have a hard time with it. And so
Yeah.
it's like, for me, there was just a deeper level of appreciation that I had to cultivate. It wasn't given to me. It wasn't something that I woke up and it's like, oh yes, I'm beautiful and everything is fine. It's like, no, I had to cultivate that within myself. I had to let myself know that I'm beautiful, that I'm smart, that I can contribute, that I'm faster, better,
Yes.
smarter
Yes.
than other people in the
Yeah.
room. I had to cultivate that for myself, and that's why I don't need outside validation.
Wow.
I don't need anybody to tell me that I'm the best at what I
Wow.
do today.
Yeah.
I already know that.
Yeah.
So that's why I walk that way.
Wow. The journey into the tech space. Actually, let's go before that. Spike Lee
Yes.
was before that, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
So how did that happen?
Oh gosh. Well, as you can imagine, you know, coming from parents who were so highly educated, who had a high bar
And then you're
for what we want to do, you know.
They're
I
expecting
was-
you to have a PhD.
Oh, yes, absolutely. So when I graduated from college, I graduated with English and African American Studies. If you imagine, my parents were like, what is this kind of degree? We don't even understand what this degree is for, you know? At the same time, I had taken all my pre-med courses. So I actually technically graduated as pre-med
Okay.
with English and African American
Right.
Studies. And I was interested in African American Studies and the English language because I wanted to understand the deeper history of the African American experience. You know? Even then, I understood that this connectivity that we have from the continent to the diaspora was something worth understanding deeper. I couldn't take it for granted, you know, and I felt very much like I was living a dual life, you know, a dual cultural life. For sure, feeling and identifying as an African American in the US and feeling like a Ghanaian when I was on the continent. And so I graduated and wanted to take a year to sort of figure myself out. All of these thoughts were in my head, trying to figure out what to do. You know, I took the MCAT, I applied to medical school, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna just take a year.
Okay.
You know?
Just
And so I
figure
talked
it
to my
all out.
parents, I just need a year, which was a terrible conversation, by the way. I'm shocked I'm still living. You know what I mean? They almost got rid of me at that point. Hey, you.
What did they say?
And then being the eldest daughter too.
Oh,
and they were like,
no.
oh, you're gonna set this
Oh.
example for your sisters? We don't think so. You know?
Oh my goodness.
But very long story short, I moved to New York City by myself. I knew one person who was in the city. I was very young and dumb, you know? Like, I think now I probably would have done like, you know, the math to say, oh, you don't have any money. You don't have any resources. You don't even have any opportunities. Why would you go there? And I probably wouldn't have gone.
Wow.
But this is the beauty of like youth and naivete. It's like, that's why you got to take the risks when you're young. It's like, just go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
Because it's like later on, you'll have way too many responsibilities, too many
true.
things that will hold you back. But yeah, I was young and dumb, and I had all the optimism in the world. And so I got to New York. I did some temp jobs. I mean, some really terrible jobs that my dad was like, so
This is what you want to do.
This is what you want to do, you know? But divine intervention, you know?
Did you work in the shops? Like, were you?
Oh, I worked on everything. I was a dog walker. I washed.
dog walker?
Oh, yeah. I worked in like a pet shop.
Oh, wow.
So I would walk the dogs. I would sweep after them. I cataloged for the National Geographic, put them in alphabetical order. Oh, I answered phones. I delivered packages. I did anything and everything just to get a little bit of money to sustain myself, because my parents were not going to give me any money for the decision I'd made.
Yeah.
So I was on my own. And then one day, my temp agency that I had been calling, who would send me out on these very ridiculous random jobs, said that Spike Lee needed someone to come answer his phone because he had fired his assistant the day before.
Wow.
And that was it. That moment
my
was
goodness.
it. That moment was it. And the funny thing is that I remember that call so clearly, you know, and feeling like, oh man, this is so great. Maybe if I just do a good enough job, he can recommend me to somebody else. You know, I just thought that like I could use this as like
as a platform,
because I didn't have any expectations that this was going to last more than 3 or 4 days. I mean, every job I'd had was 3 or 4 day jobs. I didn't think anything was going to happen. It turned into 4 years.
4 years.
I worked for Spike Lee for 4 years at his advertising agency at 437 Madison Avenue.
Wow.
And it changed my life in so many ways, you know, not just in better understanding my own blackness, because Spike, as a person, appreciates his blackness. And he does not care what you think about it. He's completely unapologetic.
Wow.
And then he is a brilliant artist. And so he understands his craft and has worked for his craft. I remember once having a conversation with him because I was considering writing, you know, like just becoming an author. And
because you did some podcasting as well, right?
yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I was doing anything and everything.
Yeah.
But I remember having a conversation with him once, back then, early days. And I said I wanted to be a writer and I wanted some thoughts because he's written all of his films and, you know, he's a fantastic writer. And he said, how much studying have you done of the writers? Like every kind of writer. And I was like, oh, did you not know I have a degree in English? Like I've said Toni Morrison, James Baldwin, like Nikki Giovanni, name a writer, black writer, I got it, you know? And he was like, no, but you haven't studied them. He's like, and so how are you going to manage like doing the work if you haven't studied well? And I literally looked at him like, this guy doesn't even know what he's talking about. You know, the arrogance of youth, you know? But I was so grateful for his mentorship at the time, and he's still a fantastic friend. You know, the full circleness of it is that at my last role at Netflix, we ended up working on an overall deal for him.
Wow.
And so he is making film for Netflix in a way that is just, I mean, I don't even know, like my heart exploded that day. You know, it's just like 20 years of like from the beginning of sitting in his office, or more than 20 years actually, you know, sitting in his office, answering his phones, getting his coffee, you know, stealing little bits of information that I could and gleaning any kind of knowledge that he left as crumbs. And then being the most senior executive to be able to facilitate his overall deal. It's incredible.
Wow. I bet at the time you actually didn't know that he was mentoring you.
No.
Right?
No, I didn't know that.
When you left and...
Yes, the look back,
Yeah.
you know? But that's what's so amazing. I find that in almost every situation in life, you're being mentored. You just have to pay attention to it. And you have to understand how to glean that from every experience. You know, and even in the jobs that I've had along my career, you know, people often ask me like, oh, you know, so like, why did you leave this and then go to there and then do this and do that? I'm just like, because I'm constantly gleaning information. This is not just the paycheck. It's not just a title on my business card. I am making myself stronger every day, in every experience, in every meeting, in every interaction. I am like a sponge, just trying to get things out of those experiences. And once I am full, I'm out. Because everything else is a waste of time.
Wow. That's so powerful. Okay, so then After Spike Lee, what happened?
Yeah. Oh, so after Spike
But
Lee.
why did you leave Spike Lee? What happened?
Actually similar. I had worked with him for 4 years. I had done the jobs, you know. I would promoted from being an assistant to then assistant account executive, which I thought was so sexy, you know, and then an account executive, and I was working on the briefs and the deals that he was trying to negotiate. And another like divine intervention moment happened at that time because he was pitching, or the agency was pitching a contract with Pepsi, with PepsiCo, North America. And they were looking for, you know, like they usually do, a talent to represent the brand. And Spike, of course, was like, you know, combing all of the hot young artists and actors and athletes and trying to figure out, well, okay, well, who would he use? And it was at that time that, again, another like pivot moment happened for me, which, you know, I was like, again, young. I didn't really know much information. Everybody in the office was older than me, and they all had so much more experience, so much more knowledge about the industry and who's hot and how you can utilize artists. And so they had all kinds of recommendations. And Spike, this is again something that I have actually learned from him as a leader, is that like you don't just ask the people at the top, you ask everybody, including the youngest in the room, for their opinion, and sometimes you take it. That's what happened to me. So he asked me who I thought was the most interesting person in pop culture to utilize in the campaign, and I said Beyonce. And here's what's so wild about that, because today, I mean, look, she just dropped Renaissance, the whole world has stopped. She's #1 on Billboard again. It's obvious now, but at the time it was not obvious. At the time she was coming out of Destiny's Child as a solo artist. There are not successful solo artists coming out of girl groups. There's one, Diana Ross.
It's true.
There just aren't any. And so people were making fun of her, you know. She's like, I remember there was this article that Slam magazine, or The Source maybe, had written comparing her and Ashanti. And they said Ashanti would smoke her.
Really?
Oh yeah. And look, no disrespect to Ashanti. We all love Ashanti, but also it's just like, wait, she was not appreciated. But I had seen a show on MTV, which was a combination of hip hop and opera, and Beyonce was in it. I thought she was brilliant. I just thought the concept was so interesting, you know. And so I told him that, and I was like, she's someone that I think, you know, she's obviously had all these hits with Destiny's Child. She's trying to branch out into acting. Like, I just think she's so fascinating. And so he met with her, talked to her, and then he cast her as the lead in the campaign. And it was fire.
Oh my goodness.
So at the time, you know, I was just happy to be part of the team. Happy to have contributed my small little role, right? But I realized that what I was doing at Spike then, I had already done, and I had reached my limit there, and I needed more experiences. So I left and had a brief stint in another advertising agency, but realized that that wasn't what I wanted to do. But I had cultivated enough relationships at Pepsi that then there was an opportunity for me to actually go and join the marketing team there, which was like coming in through the side door, you know, because like the math to get into that organization, which was the gold standard of marketing at the time, was outside of my reach, you know?
But did you always know that you're good at marketing? Because you studied English and African studies. There was no marketing in there.
Right.
So when did you start knowing that you're good at marketing? Was it the Beyonce moment where you suggested, like...
Denta, you know, this is actually a really profound question, because I don't think anyone's ever asked me that before. And my answer might surprise people, because even today I don't consider myself a marketer.
Wow.
I'm not a marketer. I'm curious about people. I'm a storyteller.
Wow.
That's what I
You're
am.
a creator.
Yeah. And so I create ideas, I create stories, I create conversation. That's what I do. And so at the time, I don't think I thought, oh, you know, I'm going to become a marketer. I thought, how can I help to facilitate a conversation of this incredibly talented Black woman, utilizing this space of a big Fortune 50 company, and create a conversation for young people who were as interested in like this fusion of style as I was. And the funny thing is that I think, and this is just all off the top of my head right now as I'm thinking through it, the connecting points, because I didn't think that that was odd. I didn't think it was too small. You know, I didn't need to talk to the masses. I was interested in her and telling the story that I knew was true. And the thing that I'm considering now is that understanding the value of my own story, my own path, my value is actually what allowed me to do it. Nobody told me that that was going to be important. Nobody said, oh, you know what? The stories of young black women in music are really important to us. No, you could look at the charts and see that that was not true. And I've never strayed from that. And I never have thought that like, oh, I need to tell some bigger story. The stories have become big because of my intention.
Right.
Because of my absolute obsession with making sure I'm telling a true story.
Right.
And that is what success has been like for me. Not because I'm a marketer.
Wow. 4 years at Spike Lee, Pepsi, what were your parents saying? Because you still haven't spoken about
the medical school was still waiting.
Yeah.
The medical school was still on the side. It was still an option. By the way, you know, it wasn't until, I'm going to skip a little bit. It wasn't until 2016.
Okay.
I was at Apple, had been part of the core team to create Apple Music. I was on the Apple keynote stage. No other black person, forget black woman, no other black person had been on that stage. Steve Jobs stage, right? Created like this moment in history where I like unveiled Apple Music to the world. And I come off the stage, you know, it's like the press is going nuts, Twitter is on fire, everybody's yelling and screaming and like getting my attention. And my dad, I talked to him that night and he was like, so you're good at this. So this is what you want to do for your life. Oh my goodness. I was like, oh man. I mean, this is after being like so successful for like 15 years, you know. But yeah, they
African parents,
look, because he always said, you know, you can always go to medical school and then use as a backup. And I was like, that's not a backup. Medical school is 12 years. Yeah. Okay, like I don't have time to go and do that while I'm pursuing this thing. But for me, it was like, you know, I think part of it was that there was a little bit of cachet in the companies I was working for. So at least they felt some relief in knowing that like, okay, she's working for Spike Lee. We know who that is. Working for Pepsi. We know who that is. You know, it's like they understood
the brands.
The brands. And that is also another lesson, right? Which is just like, how are we cultivating our own brand personas, you know, off the halo of something else. Right. And so, yes, my parents were able to attribute the value of my career to the companies I was working for, and I was able to glean a little bit of grace, just a little bit of grace, until the moment where it was like skyrocket, and they were like, "Oh, okay,
we understand now.
We understand. Go ahead and do what you're doing. It looks like it's working."
Okay, wow. After Apple, how was that? Apple
in and of itself was interesting. You know, more lessons there because I'd had a successful run at Pepsi. You know, I was there for a decade, for 10 years, and evolved a lot during that time. You know, honed my skills, was able to do some really big moments. And so when I left PepsiCo, I moved from New York. I moved to LA. Okay. It was 3 months after my husband died, and my daughter was 4. And you know, I believe that move saved my life. Wow. You know, and that like it gave me a new motivation, you know, something else to think about, to do. You know, a lot of people thought I had lost my mind, and I don't blame them.
Sometimes I read your posts. I know that you celebrate him every so often, right?
Yeah.
And you become very emotional. It's almost like you're still in love with him. Right?
Yeah.
And he made an impact in your life.
Yeah. I mean, look, I don't think that there is any small way to express, you know, when you have loved somebody like that. And I think it's actually a really big lesson for everybody, not just women, but it's like choosing the right partner. Okay. You know, choosing the right partner. Not just because you fall in love with somebody, but because you know that they're going to invest in you, going to support you, going to encourage you. That's what I had in him. And so even
Where did you meet him?
Actually, when I was at Spike DDB.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because he worked in advertising. He was working in the same building. Okay. So although we did not work together, it was not a technical office romance.
Okay.
So no HR issues.
Okay.
but it was still like an industry romance,
Okay.
you know? But we had an incredible marriage, you know, and obviously with its own challenges, issues, so many things that were happening in our marriage. But by the time that he died, he had given me, you know, so much investment in my spirit, you know, that I understood that his support would last past the grave.
Wow.
That it wasn't about this separation of us in the physical form, you know, that I would continue to feel his support. And even for my daughter, I think it's been really important for both of us that I keep him alive, you know, in spirit. I don't ever want like hushed conversations.
Right.
You know, it's like, yes, of course I have my moments of still deep grief. I don't know that anybody goes through something like that and you're able to like put it away forever, you know? That saying that like time heals all wounds, it's a lie. Time does not heal wounds. You just learn how to live with your wound.
Wow.
You know? And so it's still very fresh. And some days it still catches my breath off guard. Like I cannot believe it. And then there's some days where I'm just like, oh, that was so forever ago.
Yeah.
I'm such a different person
Yeah.
from the woman who held his hand as he took the last breath. You know? And so for me, there's a celebration and, of course, my mantra being to live life urgently in how I live. Because, you know, we say it all the time so like flippantly, like, oh, you know, like live every day like it's your last, or like carpe diem, and we say all these things and we
actually don't do
live like that. You know, and it's not a morbid thought. Like I don't sit and think like, oh my gosh, what if something happens to me today? What, you know, it's not fearful. I'm inspired. Like I want to live my fullest life. There is nothing that I want to do that I'm not going to do. Because I'm so inspired by his death. You know, I'm inspired by the fact that he didn't get a chance to do all of the things. You know, and that regret is what then inspires me to do more things. So when people criticize me for the career I have, believe me, I have my critics. You know, people see my resume and like, oh my gosh, so successful. I have my critics, believe me. And when they say things or they express that like, oh, you know, I can't believe she jumped again. I can't believe she left this. I can't believe she did that. I'm like, I'm living my life. Worry about living yours. Be less concerned with how urgently I'm living. And look at yours and see if you're living urgently. Are you doing the things you want to do? So I don't begrudge them. I feel sorry for them when they criticize me. I wish that they had the freedom that I do.
Yeah, to do what you want to do.
That's right. Yeah.
But I'm going to backtrack a bit and talk about as a mother.
Yeah.
I know that your pregnancy, your daughter was premature.
Yes, very premature.
How was, let's talk about motherhood and going through that process.
Motherhood. It's like, motherhood has been such a journey in and of itself. You know, I think as a career woman, that was probably one of the biggest challenges. You know, they tell you that you can't have everything. You know, and I believe that to some degree. Believed. Past tense.
Yeah.
To some degree.
Okay.
Because I was married, and that felt kind of natural, right? It's like you can be ambitious and still married, but to become a mother changes the axis and your focus. And so people tell you that you can't do it because how are you going to be as committed to your career if you're a mom? You know? And when I became pregnant the first time, in all honesty, I did not want to be pregnant. I didn't think that it was the right time. I didn't think it would be a good look.
Wow.
All the things. I mean, I'm being totally transparent. And then I got ill in my pregnancy. You know, I developed preeclampsia, which was unknown to me. I mean, look, the women in my family, they popping out babies, you know what I mean? There's no problem. You know, it's like I got cousins and friends and people were like giving birth like it was no problem. And we never talk about the challenges of health, you know? But I actually had I've actually never told this story. I had a childhood friend who was actually here in Ghana when I was 11 or 12, just before we moved to the US. And I had connected with her again on Facebook. And when I got pregnant, I knew she was pregnant here in Ghana.
Okay.
And so I connected with her, you know, in the messages, and we exchanged numbers, and so we're here, you know, communicating, talking about our pregnancy. She was about 4 months ahead of me.
Okay.
And one day I went on Facebook and saw on her page that she had died.
Oh my God.
And she had died of preeclampsia. She'd had a stroke in her kitchen. You know, and this was somebody who was, I think at the time, like 31 years old.
My goodness.
There's no reason for it,
Wow.
right? And it so shocked me because I hadn't heard of that before.
My goodness.
And it was, I remember going into my doctor's office and of course being very shaken by that. And I had started to have some issues myself, you know, like I was swollen unreasonably. You know? And people would tell me, oh, that's just, you're just glowing. You know, pregnant women, they just go through all kind of things. And, you know, it's like these myths that they tell us, you know, because they don't want to hurt our feelings or whatnot. And I was so worried about it, but everybody seemed to think it was okay. I did not know that I was also developing preeclampsia, early onset. And so I was 6 months pregnant when I went to get a regular routine checkup at actually the doctor's office that was at PepsiCo on campus.
Okay.
And my blood pressure was through the roof. And it was uncontrollable. And so unfortunately, I had to deliver my first daughter early, and she didn't survive my pregnancy or delivery. And it was in that moment, you know, that that kind of grief that I prayed. You know, I felt that I had taken a lot of things for granted. I'd taken my health for granted. I'd taken motherhood for granted. I'd taken so many things for granted. And I prayed that I would have the privilege of being a mom, you know, even though I was scared out of my mind to get pregnant again. But, you know, God delivered, and I was pregnant with Lael about 4 months afterwards. A very terrifying pregnancy. I won't lie about that, because, you know, it's like the trauma of having just gone through that. And then I developed preeclampsia again.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. And so, but this time I was prepared. I was taking medication, I was taking my blood pressure, I was going to a specialist, you know, and all of those things. So I felt more empowered and like, I don't know, it's like I felt stronger.
More prepared.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm still fearful, you know? And then when I had to, you know, deliver early, I was still riddled with all the same fear. You know, because it was exactly the same thing was happening again. And I was like, this is not possible. I can't go through this one more time. You know? And so when Lael was born, the doctors already prepared me. You know, they'd said, she probably won't cry. You probably won't be able to hold her. You know, she'll have to go straight into the incubator. But that girl came out screaming her head off. Oh, the biggest voice. I mean, and she was maybe as long as like the palm of my hand. You know, born just over 3 pounds.
Wow.
And translucent. Like I could see everything. I could see her heartbeat. And it was such a miracle, you know, the gift of being able to see a person develop.
Wow.
You know, like I saw her eyelashes grow in. I saw her eyebrows form. You know, I saw her skin thicken so that I could no longer see her heart going up and down. Like all of these things. Yeah. What a miracle. You know? And so I think my journey in motherhood has just made me more appreciative of everything, you know, and I think I'm a better executive because I have gone through that. I am more empathetic. I understand people's challenges. I understand that, like, look, there are so many things in our lives that are important to us. It doesn't mean you can't be a committed business person or that you can't contribute. But we all have other things that are going on that can contribute to the success of our work. And so that's why I am unapologetic in bringing my full self into my job. I don't mind being very free and open with the challenges that I have as a mother, even in my work. My teams know when I've had a hard morning with my daughter before I come into the office. You know what I mean? Or like, you know, have to leave early to go watch her in her play.
Yeah, how is that balancing though? Making sure that us as mothers that are in the limelight are there for them, the moments that they really need us. And obviously with the work that you do, demanding, right? Did you have understanding bosses that, you know, I have to be at this place for my daughter, You know, how were you able to balance that?
Ay, that's a really complicated question too. I mean, look, I started clocking 1 million miles a year about a decade ago, you know, in air travel. Like,
Wow.
yeah. I've been on the road. I mean, there was the year I.
Are you Delta? Have
Yes.
you got Delta?
I'm 360. I'm a million miler.
Oh
I'm
my
platinum
God.
medallion.
Can you transfer some of the?
I have all the things. I have all the things. Okay. No, but it's like, you know, I remember a very specific time when actually when we were just about to launch Apple Music, and I was living in LA. Apple's based in Cupertino, which is North California.
Okay.
The flight is about 45 minutes. And all my male counterparts, because I was the only woman on the team, were taking apartments in Cupertino, and they would fly up on, you know, Monday morning, work there all week, fly back home on Friday morning. I was unable to do that because at that point, you know, I was a single mom. Thankfully, my mother had come to LA, so she was supportive and helpful. I was also in a financial situation where I could hire somebody to help me around the house. But that doesn't take the place of being the mom.
Yeah.
So I made the very, very difficult decision that I would fly every single day.
Wow.
So my daughter was in kindergarten, so, you know, little. And she was going to a Catholic school. So I made an agreement with the nuns. And I said, I needed to drop her off just a little early, you know, so I would drop her off at 7:30 in the morning. The flight that I needed to catch was at 8:20. The airport was about 15 minutes away from her school.
Okay.
So I would drop her off, speed off to the airport, catch the 8:20 a.m. flight, be able to walk into a meeting in Cupertino by 10 a.m.,
My goodness.
do all of my meetings all day, leave the office at 5:30, catch a 6:20 p.m. flight back home, walk in my house at 8 p.m. Her bedtime was 8:30.
Oh my goodness.
I did that every single weekday for 2.5 years.
Wow.
And I think for us, you know, it's like when we talk about balance,
Wow.
I don't necessarily think that everybody needs to do that. My daughter's now 13, right? I'm talking about 2.5 years in her life where that was the standard. I had to do it because I both wanted to succeed in the job I was doing, but I wanted to be there in the morning over breakfast to hear about what she was concerned about for the day, and I wanted to be there at night to hear about what happened, you know? And so it wasn't necessarily about understanding bosses because, you know, if we're being totally honest, there are not a lot of understanding bosses about what you need to do. But we need to make the decisions for ourselves, what it is that we want to do, how we want to accomplish. And then the biggest thing for me, Denta, was that I had to forgive myself for the moments that I would not make. You know, for the bake sale where I wasn't baking the food
Yes.
and I had to buy it,
Yes.
you know, or like that first day of school. I remember one in particular, you know, they wanted all the parents to stick around for the first day. You know, you unpack and put the things in the desk and the parents have chairs around and you would just observe the class. And, you know, it's snack time. You would be able to interact with your kid. I couldn't stay that day. You know, and she and I had a conversation about it before. By the way, we are super open with each other. I have these agreements. We talk about everything.
Wow.
You know, that began actually when my husband died because I recognized that I needed her to both understand everything
And
that
be
was going
open.
on.
Yeah.
And it would also heal us and help our relationship. It has been transformative for us. So I talked to her about it, you know, and I said, look, all the other parents are going to be there. You're probably the only one whose mommy's not there all day. And she was like, okay. You know, she seemed a little disappointed, but she said, okay. So we go to school. And remember, the time that I'm working with, right? I don't have a lot of time. So I'm like, okay, got to hurry up, put her things in the thing, and then go to the airport. So I'm, you know, fighting back tears as I'm like putting her things away. And I see her in the little corner with her little girlfriends, and they're whispering. But I overheard her say, oh, my mommy can't stay today. And just as like my heart is about to shatter on the floor because I'm like, oh my God, she's probably like feeling so terrible. She says, I'm so proud of her because she's going to a big meeting and she has so many things to do. I can't wait to tell her about what happened tonight when she gets home. And it was just like the most, I don't even know how to, it was freeing, it was validating. And I know that not every moment will be like that. I know that there will be times, and there have been times when she's been upset, you know, about me having to make one choice versus another. But the choice is mine. And I don't say that lightly. You know, I think as mothers, sometimes we put ourselves last. To say everything's going to be for the kid. No, no, no. You're not going to be a better mom if you're not a better woman.
Ooh. Wow.
If you're not chasing your own dreams and aspirations, how do you expect to inspire your kids to do that?
Wow.
If you're not living your fullest life, getting your fullest potential, reaching for the stars, how do you expect them to do that?
Wow.
They're looking at you. If they see you not achieving, if they see you make the sacrifice not to do the thing you really want to do, you think they're going to do it?
It's true.
So now you're passing down generational behaviors that are going to keep them stunted.
Wow.
And so my hope is that as my daughter matures and grows and watches me in this career, living my life, that it will inspire her to continue to do that for herself. That she won't take any obstacles laying down. That she won't sacrifice herself for anybody. And that is what I feel will be I'll feel like I did something good. That my legacy is actually complete if she becomes the woman she is intended to be because she designed it for herself.
Does Boz want to have more children?
You know, you're literally the second person to ask me that in 2 days.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah. Oh gosh, it's a hard question because I would love to have more children, but you know, I made out so well with this one. She's so fantastic. I'm like, what are the odds that I'd get another one who's as fantastic
as her?
I'm like, you know, there's like the probability. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. But well, you know, I stay hopeful. You know, let's see if a right partner comes along.
Yeah.
Then maybe I make that choice. I don't know.
Okay. All right. So you're open. You're open.
I'm open.
Okay. All right.
We'll see.
We'll see. Endeavor.
Yes.
Uber, Endeavor.
Yes.
All of that.
Yeah.
Your journey, like, it's just been, you're bombing everywhere. Like,
Yes.
it's just one major corporation after another. Like,
Yeah.
and then you're always like the first.
Yes. Oh gosh.
Hall of Fame. Like,
Yeah. I know. It's actually, looking back is actually unbelievable to me too, by the way. It's not like I'm sitting here and I'm just like, yeah, of course, I did it all. You know, I look back and I'm just like, what the hell? How did this happen? You know? And the thing is that even with all the success, like I look back at certain jobs or I look back at the experiences and I see the struggle and the pain.
Right.
You know, it's like, I think that's what's sometimes forgotten when the outside world is like, oh, this person is like, has done all the things. You know, it's like when I got the news that I would be inducted into the Hall of Fame, I couldn't believe it.
Wow.
Even though, of course, like I've had great successes, probably deserve it, you know, but I was still shocked by it because I thought, oh, but I'm not done.
Wow.
You know, I feel
There's
like the
still
Hall
more
of
to come,
Fame.
yeah.
I was like, it feels like the Hall of Fame is something that happens at the end of your career.
Right.
But as I sit here now, you know, I am both surprised, you know, at what has happened in my career, like these rooms that I've been able to be in, these experiences that I've been able to cultivate. I am pissed off sometimes at what it has taken to do it. You know, I wonder what kind of woman I would be if I hadn't sometimes have had to fight the way that I fought for the right to just express myself.
Wow.
You know, and being in rooms where I'm talked over,
Wow.
you know, or disregarded, only for that same idea to come back
Wow.
because somebody else picked it up,
Wow.
you know, and having to swallow that sometimes. So the idea that it's like, yes, I've been in really big jobs. I've had tremendous success in these jobs. That is maybe 20%
Wow.
of what I've done.
Wow.
Because people don't even see the other stuff. They don't see the stuff that I didn't get credit for. They don't see the ideas that were discarded because it was coming from me and not from some white man somewhere.
Wow.
You know, that sometimes I look at my career and even though it's like, look, I am extraordinarily grateful. That's where I operate from. I wouldn't be human, I wouldn't be honest with you if I didn't think sometimes that like, oh, what if? What if I hadn't been born in this body?
Wow.
You know, would I be even more lauded? Would somebody have a statue of me somewhere by now? You know?
Wow.
And that causes me also then to be really pissed off and go after more.
Wow.
Because I don't want any question. I don't want any debate at any point that I'm not the greatest.
Wow.
No debate.
Wow. Wow. I got it. You're so great. You know, but one of the questions that I have to ask
Yeah.
is, why did you leave Netflix?
Oh, yes. This is a complicated question. It is.
Why?
Because every situation is so different for me. You know, I know that people think it's like, oh, well, you know, they think they see a pattern. It's not a pattern. I'm living in my purpose. What you're seeing is the work of God, not the work of man or woman. You know, like I am put into situations, I execute on those situations, and then when it's time for me to leave, I obey.
Wow.
I don't fight it. Like, because you know that feeling, right? When you know it's time for you to go,
Yeah.
either at a job, a relationship, situationship,
Yeah. You know you gotta go.
you know you got to go, but we fight it. We argue with ourselves. Oh, no, but it can't be. No. You know, if I only do this, if I only do that, if I only get this, if I only get that. But sometimes it's like you're actually blocking your own blessing by doing that. You're standing in your own way.
Wow.
Your own obstacle. And so, yes, I know that to the world, it's like, oh, this incredible opportunity, this C-suite job in the FANG company that is like one of the top 5 in the whole world, this enormous officer job. You know, it's like I had an enormous team, an enormous budget, but I had to look around and say, like, am I learning more than I already know
Wow.
here? Am I getting better at who I am, what I'm doing? What if I don't have a lot of time left? Am I wasting my time by sitting here? Is there more that I could do? And for me, some of the answers that, like, I have other things that I want to accomplish in life. You know, and knowing that, by the way, at that same time was when I was being positioned for the Hall of Fame. And so everything was kind of happening at the same time. And if I can just be spiritual for a second, you know, it's like I also understand and I'm attuned to the signs in my life, you know, and I pay attention to it.
Okay.
And so I'm not moving by my own will. You know, I'm like, I sit there and I'm like, this takes faith.
Right.
So I saw the sign, which was like, okay, you're getting inducted into the Hall of Fame. That's kind of the end of a career.
Wow.
You know, and I'm sitting there at the same time and I'm like, what else am I going to gain from the experience here? My ego was going to get in my way. Walking into a room and people saying, oh, you know, she's the CMO of Netflix. That's ego. That's not necessarily because I'm going to be better for it.
Right.
And I still love my team, still love the executives there, still love Reed Hastings and Ted Sarandos. It was nothing against them at all.
Right.
It was just time for me to go. And so now it's like, look, I'm pursuing a lot of things that I would not. This is the most unbelievable thing. When it's time, I will come back and I will tell you what is happening.
Wow.
Right now, I cannot.
Oh man!
But it is some history-making stuff.
Wow.
And I cannot believe it. And Denta, if I had stayed
You would have
at the
not-
job, I would not be able to do what I'm doing in this very moment, which is
Wow.
going to change the world.
Wow.
And so sometimes you have to step on faith. You have to know that even if you jump, the net will be there.
That's powerful. Do you think that sometimes our intuition, sometimes we get it, but we're not following it?
Yes.
We have a lot of those moments, right?
Woo. Now you see, you're going to very dangerous territory. Because it's true. We all have it. This is not something special I have. It's unique to me. And so the same way that you're walking in your purpose, I can't tell you what to do next.
Yeah.
I have no idea. And that is why sometimes, you know, when you go around and you ask for people's opinions on what is happening in your life, I think that's such a mistake.
It's true.
I stopped doing that a long time ago. Now, of course, I care, you know, what my girlfriends think, a
Yeah.
mentor or something like that, you know, but people often want to tell you what to do next. You take them their thing and you're just like, oh, I have this opportunity to do, should I do it or should I not do it? Don't ask them. It is not their journey.
It's true.
They will have no idea. They're guessing.
It's true.
So why then not go inside, listen to your intuition, pray for clarity, for peace, so that you can figure out which way to go. I promise you it will come, but you have to have the action. You have to be bold enough, brave enough, courageous enough to stop all the outside noise and actually pay attention to what your path is. I'm a living testimony that that is actually true. There's not been one job, I know this is gonna sound crazy, there's not been one job where somebody has said like, oh, I don't think you should do that.
Wow.
Even all these big companies.
Really?
No. It happens all the time. When I got the call about Netflix, I was at Endeavor. Actually, I had just come off of bringing 20 executives with me to Ghana.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like I had grabbed them super agents from film and TV and sports and music and lifestyle and fashion. And I gathered them all, brought them here because Endeavor is such an enormous company and has its hands all over pop culture. And I was like, oh, we need to go to Africa because that's where everything is happening. Pop culture is happening there. So it was an enormous effort. There was so much excitement around it. Pandemic hits, but we're still going. You know, there's all these meetings and budding things that we're about to do. And I got the job, or I got the call about the job at Netflix, and I thought, oof, well, I'm very comfortable where I am. I'm getting paid very well. I don't need to move. You know, I don't need to go take another job. Also, it's in the middle of a pandemic, it's a global team. I wouldn't be able to see my people. And that's the way I lead, you know, is like by my interpersonal things. I like to go into the meetings and I'm brainstorming with you, all that stuff. Taking that job would also mean that I was the only black officer of a public company in the FANG companies.
Wow.
Facebook, Amazon, Netflix. Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, Google. I'd be the only black one.
Wow.
The spotlight, I cannot describe how hot it is. The criticism over every small little thing, whether I wear a bathing suit or my hair is a funny style or a decision I've made or a campaign or, oh, the price of oil went up. That must be Boza's fault. You know, like everything, the pressure of that. And so I considered all of that and I was like, I don't think I'm going. Why should I go there? Like, for what? I'm doing great at Endeavor. There's no reason for me to jump. But I had to get still. I had to get real quiet because look, the life was sweet too. It was sweet over here at Endeavor and I was chilling. I really didn't need it, you know, doing all the fun things I wanted to do. But when I got still, and this is why sometimes, you know, God and I, we're homies, you know what I mean? Because sometimes I yell and scream and I'm just like, but why? Like, why does this have to happen right now?
Yes.
Like, do you see this? I'm doing this. But I didn't know that I needed to shift to gain more knowledge, to become sharper. And so when the offer finally came, I was looking at it and I was just like, oh man, I should really turn this down. I really shouldn't do this. Like, why start over? And I got to make new friends at this company. I can't even go and see them in person. You know, it's like, I don't know how long this is going to last. But I resigned. And the day I resigned from Endeavor, I called Ari Emanuel, who's the founder and CEO of Endeavor, and I couldn't even get the words out. I was crying that hard, you know. And he was very supportive, but he said, you know, why are you resigning if you don't want to go? And I was like, because God told me to. I know that sounds crazy. I'm like, I know that doesn't make any sense, but I have to go. And everybody in my life was like, don't go. Ari loves you. You know, you're an officer at this company also. It's about to go public. Like, why would you leave that? But I left.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's faith, Denta. It's faith. I know that my destiny is so much bigger than I can ever dream. And so if I don't follow the faith, then I'll never achieve it. And that's why I go.
Man, so much inspiration, honestly. Now I'm going to bring it back to Africa.
Yes!
Ghana.
Hey! Ghana.
When for you,
Yeah.
I know you had a call from the president to help with the year of return. How did that all happen?
Again, more divine intervention, Denta. You know, the most amazing thing is that, you know, being a child of Ghanaian parents in the diaspora, as you know, means that, like, you know, you go back intermittently. You know what I mean? Like special occasions or, you know, like, you know, you just get sent back. You know, there's all kinds of things. But for me, I didn't have a relationship with anybody here outside of my immediate family and my parents. And so even though I was highly connected to Ghana,
You weren't that connected.
I wasn't that connected. You know what I mean? It wasn't, I was like in my 30s before I had even a small group of friends who were my own. And so at that time, I was just interested in understanding what Accra, even just Accra, was like as an adult, you know, outside of my parents' shadow.
Yes, yes.
But it wasn't until I met the president in 2017 at the Africa America Institute Gala.
Okay.
I was being awarded for my work in business, and he was being awarded on behalf of the people of Ghana.
Wow.
And it also so happened that he had just come from the UN General Assembly, where he had declared that 2019 was going to be the year of return, and that he was going to lead that mission. So I, achieve my award. I give my acceptance speech in Fanti through and through to a crowd in New York City, and I come off the stage and he was like, "Hey, you come here." And it was such a funny moment because I think I didn't intend to do that. It's like I got up there and I just felt inspired. And it was kind of also a nod and an honor to my mom that, when I was a kid, she didn't assimilate. When the, white little kids would come over to our house, she didn't speak to them in English.
Wow.
She was like, "And you're in my house. You will speak the language I speak in here.
Wow.
When I come outside, I will speak your language."
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I was like, yeah, me too. When I'm accepting an award for the work I've done as a woman, but I'm representing Ghana, I'm going to also speak in my language, even if I'm in the middle of New York City.
It's amazing.
And so it was off of that kind of attitude that then the president, posed the question to me, which was just like, okay, this is all nice. This is great. I'm so proud of you for all the things you've done. All these companies you've worked for, all these awards you've achieved. But what are you doing in Ghana? Like, how are you helping? How are you contributing? I didn't have anything to say. I had nothing to say. And so when he asked if I would help to develop the ideas, the marketing campaigns, if I would advise on the year of return, I almost felt like an undeniable obligation.
Yes.
I didn't know how I could say no.
Yeah.
Not just because I didn't want to. Of course I wanted to. But Denta, this is the thing about again, stepping into your destiny that I just didn't think I could. Even with all the success I'd had in marketing and storytelling and creating narratives, I didn't think it was possible. I was like, how can I do it on behalf of a country? It just seemed too big. It seemed too hard. And I'd already had the very painful experiences of being a kid from Ghana in these spaces. I knew what it was like to be made fun of.
Yeah.
The kids who called me African booty scratcher. The commercials with the African children with their distended bellies and the flies on their eyes.
Yep.
I knew already what they thought. In those days when I first, arrived in Colorado Springs, they asked me how I knew how to button my shirt because didn't I run around naked? Did I sleep in a hut? This is the first time I, slept in a bed.
Wow.
I was like, you people, you don't even know what we have over there. And so I knew the challenges, and I had never faced that before in a corporate setting, right? I was like, oh man, at that time, I was just transitioning to Uber. And that was probably the closest association, by the way. I know it's an odd comparison, but I was working at a company that had gone through a transformative brand decline overnight.
That's true.
Where it felt like, oh my gosh, the whole world hates this company. Now I've got to go and fix it.
Yeah.
As a chief brand officer, I have to tell all these people that what they think of this company is not the same.
Right.
So it is the same kind of attitude I brought to the work on the year of return, which was just like, how do I convince all of these people who think that this place is a place you send 2 cents to every day for some kid to eat, that actually there's richness here, that there is something of value here, that the people are important here. That was the challenge I had to face as a marketer.
So then the full circle.
Yes.
You came out with that. How was that bringing all of these top Americans to Ghana?
Yeah. Well, that was so much fun. It was actually so much fun because that year that I came to Ghana in 2017, actually brought with me Boris, Kojo, and Nicole Ari Parker. They were good friends, and they were going to come anyway for an event that they were hosting, which had nothing to do with anything, right? But I was like, you guys, you don't. I felt the way that I had felt when I first came to Ghana. I didn't know anybody. They didn't know anybody. They didn't have any personal connections outside of the family, right? I was like, I'm about to show you a good time. You didn't know that the clubs were out here. You didn't know the food. You didn't know the historical sites. You haven't been doing the things. So we did all of that stuff. And then I had to have a meeting with the president about year of return. And I went to that meeting into his office alone, but I left Boris and Nicole and our family sitting outside because we, you know, the protocol. Like I hadn't said I was bringing people with me.
Yeah.
It was totally not the right thing to do.
Yeah.
But I was in the meeting. We're getting to like the end of the meeting, and in a moment of bravery, you know, because we didn't have a relationship yet, so I didn't know how the president was going to react to this. And I said, you know, I have some friends who came with me. I'd be so honored if you would just say hi to them, if we could just take a photo. And he's like, oh, bring them in.
Let them come.
You know, let them come. So they came in, and we sat and we talked, and Boris talked about his work in acting, and Nicole did too. And he talked about his father and his roots and how he's trying to redefine. And so by the time we got back to California, we both live in Los Angeles. And we met up for, you know, good Sunday jollof, you know, and we're eating and talking. And I was like, man, you know, this is a big mission. Like, I'm not quite sure how we're going to accomplish this, but it would be great if, like, maybe we made it super personal, like what we just did. You know? And so that's when we started to compare our Rolodexes and say, okay, well, who could we invite, like, personally? You know, this is not, I'm not going to sell this to anybody. I've got to call people that want to come, and I can convince them, come with me. Like, this is not just like, oh, just, you know, take a risk. No, I'm putting this on my back. And so that's when we came up with the 100. 100 people. We said, okay, and we were very strategic about like, okay, we want this celebrity, we want this comedian, we want this business person, we want this socialite. You know, it was like getting together a bunch of people. Because the thing is, if we did all of Hollywood, then like the business people would be left out. If we did all business, then it wouldn't catch the cachet of like pop culture, you know? And I also knew from the mechanics of, you know, what social media does and how, you know, the world is, that we needed a lot of noise, you know? So the trick of marketing, or the trick of narrative building, is that, you know, sometimes you think, oh, well, I need a lot of people to make a lot of noise. You don't. You need a small number of people who are targeted, you know? So yeah, we had a WhatsApp group chat, which by the way is still active. It's still on my phone, of all the 100 people.
Oh, wow.
Yes, from 2018. They still share information on that. And, you know, we would say, okay, today, this is the place we're going. You need to be on Instagram. This is the type of thing you need to say, and target it that way. That way we could make sure that the messages we were trying to tell would seep through. By the end of that trip, I remember Rich Dennis, you know, owner of Essence Ventures and creator of Shea Moisture, called me. He was in South Africa with his family. And he called me. He's just like, why is everybody in Ghana?
What's happening?
What is going on? He's like, I didn't even, and he's Liberian. So he was just like, what is going on? He felt like it was overnight. And I was just like, yeah, exactly. He didn't know that it was like a few of us who were just like yelling.
Making noise.
Making it feel like everybody was here. Like this was the place I was popping. And that's how we began the excitement. So then it was like 2019, we went from bringing 100 and hoping that we would get 20% increase of the, you know, visas, because at that time it was 40 or 50,000 visas per year. And we just wanted a 20% increase, really. It was an ambitious goal, by the way. 20% increase is
That's
a lot.
a lot. Yeah.
We got to 1 million visas in 2019. 1 million visas.
That's
and so
incredible.
us personally, Boris and I brought 300 people in 2019 just on our own. And then we had 1 million people. And some of the things that we started then now have become traditions that I think is outrageous. It's like the morning, New Year's Day morning at the beach. That was something that like was almost accidental because that 2017 when they were here, we went to Twist, okay? This is all full transparency. We went to Twist, okay? It was late. It was probably 4 o'clock in the morning or 5 when we left. The sun had just started to come up. We were starving, but we didn't want to go home. You know, nobody wanted to call it the night. So I called my uncle, Pa John Dotson.
Oh, Pa John.
That's my uncle.
Oh.
And I called him because he was the only person I knew who would probably be up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And he cooks.
So we went over to his house. He packed us a picnic.
Oh my goodness.
And he said, you know what you should do? We should go to the beach and we can eat there. So we took, he had these little chairs and stuff. I'm telling you, this was all bootstrapped. So we took his little picnic. By the way, still a little inebriated and all that. Took the chairs, we went out to the beach, and that was the first sunrise that we did. So when we came in 2018 with 100, we knew that's what we wanted to do again. And so we created the whole you know,
Yeah.
like ambiance. So then it was like all of the videos and photos of people jumping up in the water and the champagne that was flowing. Again, it felt like, oh, when I go to Ghana, that's what I'm supposed to do on New Year's morning. I went to the beach this past Christmas, or New Year's, 2021 into 2022.
A lot of people were there.
And could not believe
The amount of people.
what? And to the point where I remember AJ, who has become now frequent here.
Yeah.
I remember she had called me like on the 30th or something like that, and she was like, oh, you know, we're planning to go to the beach. Would you like some bottle of champagne, or you can come with us? And I was sitting there thinking, you know, I created that.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what you're, like, you can't invite me to a thing I created, you know? But it was so funny to me. Because, and when we got there were hundreds of people, and everybody celebrating.
Yeah.
And that first year, no one was out there.
Wow. Nobody. I definitely know that it was something that you guys did, because...
So, but it's things like that, which I just find to be so beautiful.
Yeah.
Because even though it's like, yes, look, we started it, I don't have any ownership of it.
Yeah.
I feel like these are all the things, like everything that happens as a result of what we've done. You know, I just find it to be, again, part of my destiny. You know, the fact that TJ Adeshola from Twitter came with me in 2018. You know, he was part of the 100. And, you know, because of that relationship,
now he's built a lot of other relationships.
Yes, he then went back to work. He obviously has a great relationship with Jack, brought Jack back.
Yeah.
And that's how the Twitter office in Ghana came to be.
True.
So my point is that, like, even some of the things that we thought we're doing for tourism's sake have bigger business implications.
Absolutely.
And so I'm just glad for the flowering of these tiny seeds that we planted.
Wow, it's amazing. And then being an ambassador, like diplomat ambassador, not just an ambassador.
Yes, ma'am.
How did that come about?
Yeah. Well, if I can be honest, I think it was a little bit of guilt.
Oh, okay.
Because I'd done so much work.
Yeah.
You know, and so it was kind of retroactive. So it actually was in August of 2021 that the president said I would be the special envoy to his office of the diaspora. Wow. And I would have diplomatic license. And I was like, thank you very much.
Thank you.
But I'd been doing the work anyway. And honestly, I would do the work without the title.
Wow.
But I'm very grateful for it.
Do you ever see yourself in politics?
Oof, I've been asked that question a lot. I don't know, you know, I have great faith actually in political systems. But if I can be totally transparent, I think my dad's experiences probably turned me off.
Okay.
You know, but I don't know. We'll see. Maybe that's the next thing. We don't know.
Okay, and I think lastly, wrapping up, how do you see the role of the diaspora?
Oh.
What are our stories that we can tell to other Ghanaians that are here of the challenges that we face, right?
Yeah.
As a diaspora.
Yeah.
Bro, what role do you see us playing in the development of the continent?
Yeah. I have so many thoughts about this. Maybe I will summarize it, or maybe put umbrella under something the president said that actually inspired me back in 2017. He said that no person of African descent will be respected until the continent of Africa is respected. I thought that was mind-blowing. Like, I'd never considered it that way before. And I think in the diaspora, that is what we're lacking. We don't respect the continent. We don't respect what comes out of the continent, the fashion, the food, the music. I mean, just recently, like Afro beats, you know, it's like starting to make its way. But I will tell you that in 2016, when I did the Afro keynote and I played Yewo Krum on that stage, it was the first time Afro beats had ever been played in that kind of arena, on that kind of stage. And we didn't even have nobody had a playlist. Spotify didn't have one. Apple Music didn't have one. Tidal didn't have one, which was Afro beats. In fact, we were still calling it hip life, you know? And no, we didn't have it. It was characterized under world music. And it was after that moment, Yewo Krum shot up the charts after playing it there. And then all of a sudden we had a creation of Afrobeats. Now, or Afrobeats as a platform on these stages. I'm not saying that to say that, like, hey, look, I started the movement. I'm saying it that, like, we as individuals have the power to influence. I could have chosen any song to play during that keynote. It was important for me to reach a lot of people. So yeah, should I play some Britney Spears? Probably. No, but I chose an artist that lots of people weren't familiar with, a song that nobody could understand the words of because it wasn't in English.
It's true.
And if I didn't have the respect for our culture, I don't think that moment happens. And I don't think you have the domino effect. And so that's what I ask of the diaspora, which is that we need to respect the incredible contributions that the continent has. You know, we're the youngest continent.
Yeah.
Average age 19 years old. We're the future. We really are. I know we say the future is African. No, but like really, we are. And so how do we create more respect for the continent and therefore for ourselves by actually engaging and making sure that the value is seen by everybody? So that's the responsibility of the diaspora. That's what we have to do. We can't, and I'm not saying that everybody needs to move back, you know, that you need to be an expat. I'm not saying that. That's not the requirement. The requirement is, how do you continue to celebrate who you are, what you know of the continent, and if you don't know enough, then come back and find out and take that and spread it around the world. Like, we have so much more power that I think we give ourselves credit for. And to some degree, we're also responsible for our downfall. So I'd like us to take the responsibility for our rise.
Fantastic. Now, your final words to young women out there who are thinking, oh, I don't think I can do this. Like that confidence, that inner intuition, right? That may be floating in their mind or in their spirit. How do you encourage them? What are your words to them? You know, sometimes I feel like they see you at the top and they think, I can never get there. You know, I can never reach there. What would you tell them?
The math doesn't make sense. You see all the the stats? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense for me to have the career I have. I'm such a small percentage of the success. You know, if you look at like the black women in corporations globally who've been officers of one company, it's less than 1%. To be an officer at 4 companies is impossible. That stat does not exist. And so if that has happened to me, why not you? Why not you? You know, I think that we give ourselves too little credit for our contribution and then also for the challenges. I didn't come into this with rose-colored glasses. I didn't think for 1 second that the world was going to be fair. I'm actually very confused when people are like, oh, you know, there's no equality. I know there's not equality, so what are you going to do about it? You're going to sit in your seat until there is, or you're going to make it? You know, and so understanding our own power, understanding that there will be obstacles. It is not fair, but it doesn't mean that you don't have any power. That we have to keep pushing, even when you get the no, even when somebody doesn't respect what you said, even when they tell you that you're not smart enough, go anyway. Do it anyway. And do not look for outside validation. It will fail you every time. So everybody else that you're looking around and saying, oh, well, you know, I need somebody to tell me that, yes, I can do it or not. No, you need to cultivate within yourself. It's actually the power that's going to allow you to succeed. So I don't think I'm special. I just think I pushed. And so we should push.
Keep pushing.
Yeah.
Keep pushing.
Keep
pushing.
Push through.
Push through, and you will definitely get there. Thank you so much to everybody that's watched the show. I know that you are inspired. I'm sitting here. I'm a sponge today. I'm soaking it all in. I'm soaking absolutely everything in. Boz, thank you so much once again for joining me on the show. And hopefully we'll have a part 2 where you come back and tell me what the highlight, the big thing that's coming out.
The big thing.
We're very excited. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.